Hello everyone, this is Jonathan Little, and today I'm going to be showing you a feature of this program I've been working with recently called ICMizer. And today we're going to be taking a look at the sit and go coach feature. What this program does is it teaches you how to play various shove fold scenarios in tournaments. And quite often you're not just trying to win the most chips possible, you're trying to win the most money possible. And individual chip modeling, or the individual chip model, ICM, is a way to teach you if you need to be shoving or folding in a spot based on the tournament payout structures. And as you see in the sit and go coach feature, you actually have to pick which format you want to play. So as you can see, they have structures like 18-person 9-handed tournaments, 45-person 9-handed tournaments, 6 max turbo tournaments, etc., etc. And all these tournaments have different payout structures. And for that reason, you have to play differently. Whenever I first downloaded this program, this is actually my second time actually using this sit and go coach feature. They initially prompted you with a quiz, and I ended up getting some of the questions wrong, and that made me sad. To be fair, the ones I got wrong were very close situations, but at the same time, my goal is to be about as perfect as possible. So let's play some of the 1,500-person normal tournament situations, because that is what I traditionally play. So we have to select, let's see. Seems like I got 56% of the, or I'm in the top 56 percentile. That's not very good over my first little quiz. So it says select a quiz to start. So let's do 6-handed any. And then I guess it's asking us which position we want to be in. Let's do hijack. Start 6-way push any stack hero on hijack quiz. Let's do it. All right, so now, as you can see, there's a timer, and it's going to ask you which hands you should push in this situation. It actually says we have 2.5 big blinds. That makes it easy on us. And we see everyone else is very short in this example. So will we push Jack 5 suited? I am going to guess, wow, we have so few chips. I'm going to guess we're going to push all of these, although I do think Jack 5 suited and Jack 6 suited are probably close. And sure enough, Jack 5 suited and Jack 6 suited were folds, and they were actually somewhat significant folds. So there you go. Fairly standard error. A lot of people think in this spot that, whenever you shove, that you just have to shove with no chips, but this is suggesting, given normal payout structure, that you should fold. And the reason it's suggesting fold, I already know the answer to this, is because it's hoping that one of these other guys go broke before you. And when you shove, you're going to get called every time. So if you're going to get called, then I guess you do need to have some sort of a hand. I assume Jack 5 and Jack 6 suited were good enough hands, but it shows you how bad of a push it was. And this 0.37 is actually kind of bad. So pretty clear error right here. And this is of the total prize pool, I believe. That is how they calculate it. All right, next question. Let's see if I can embarrass myself more. Hopefully we'll learn by the time we're done. All right, 9 big blinds, 1 big blind person here, 1.5 big blind person here, 2 big blind person here. So this could be a spot where you should push very wide, because we do expect the players to fold a lot, but I actually don't think the big blind is going to fold too often, so I'm actually going to fold all of these. So we got all of these right, and take a look at this though. These actually are not very significantly bad plays, and I could see in this scenario, if you knew the player in the big blind was just a super nit, you could conceivably push these, but you're getting called every time, and it's just probably not worth it. All right, 2 big blind stack. So kind of the same situation we had in the first hand. Everyone's very short. So, I mean, it's telling us to fold Jack 9 suited. So maybe we're supposed to fold Jack 10, but sorry, 10-9, but 10-9 is pretty great. I'm going to say push all of these. I bet King 4 is probably close, and I bet 10-9 is probably close. Wow. Supposed to fold all of these. Unbelievable. So why are we folding all of these? I guess we're folding all these because, well, clearly, I did not take into account that this guy is going to go broke this hand. So it's very important to make sure that you are taking these things into account. So let's see if we can actually figure out how to beat this thing. All right. So now we have 16 big blinds, so a lot of chips. This guy's short. So I think we're going to have a lot of pushes in this scenario. This one's not going to be a push, but I think these are all going to be pushes. These seem like no-brainer decisions to me, so hopefully we got those right, so that's good. All right, 14 big blinds, fairly deep stacks. We're going to fold, fold, push, push. So, I mean, usually the total trash hands and the pretty good hands are obvious. The ones it seems like I'm running into a problem with are when I have a marginal hand. Like right here with King 8 suited. I think this is... Wow, what is this? I think it's probably a push because these three guys should be tight because they're all so tiny. Remember, always pay attention to the stack sizes. That is the main consideration. Also, this assumes your opponents all play perfectly, which is very important. We definitely do not know if they are going to play perfectly in real life, but I guess I would push this if I was playing, but maybe I should just fold. So this is a tough one. I actually don't know what the answer is for this one. I'm going to say push, and the reason I'm going to say push is because if one of these guys calls, it's not really end of the world, and the big blinds should never call based on the payout structure. So do get it right, and take a look at this, though. I want to make it clear that these are just barely folds. 0.06% is like nothing, right? So this actually, I didn't really notice this, but this tells you which range you should be pushing in this scenario, so that's pretty cool. So here we should be pushing almost everything, right? And I think a lot of people don't recognize that. And that is because it goes small stack, small stack, and then a big stack. Hopefully I don't continue embarrassing myself, though. It's not fun to embarrass myself in public. All right, 7 big blinds. We're going to need to be pretty tight in this spot. And the reason for that is because we're really just not that short, and there are 3 other short stacks, so we're going to be folding. We probably need to be pushing a relatively snug range here, but probably nothing insane. So let's see what it does suggest. So fairly snug, like I said. Also, you see these hands like King 7 suited, Queen 8 suited, where it's like 0.00 profitable. Those could easily be folds. And stuff like King 8 suited and Queen 9 suited and Jack 9 suited here could also easily be folds. You want to make sure you do have some edge when you're jamming in these spots. And if you take a look at this, actually very few hands are significantly profitable. Anything more than like 0.1 or higher is like super obvious shoves. Anything less than 0.1 is somewhat close. All right, 6 big blinds, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, and 3.5. So these hands are all pretty good. So I think we're going to be pushing all of these, but this is a spot where I don't think I should be shoving too incredibly wide because we are going to be getting called a decent amount of the time. This program actually is designed to where it doesn't really test you too hard if it sees you're struggling. So it probably saw me get 2 of those first 3 questions completely wrong, so it's giving me easy options. But as you see, this is a somewhat snug range. I probably would not have told it to shove King 6 offsuit, for example. I probably would have folded that, and Queen 7 suited I probably would have folded. So I could see myself getting the bottom of that range wrong. All right, 3.5 big blinds. We're the short stack. We're pushing a lot of stuff. I think we're going to need to fold the 9-8, though. And I think that's because this is probably one of these spots like the Jack 5 suited where it's going to be banking on someone else going before us, although that should not really happen too often. Also, 9-8, so it's not that great, but these other hands are pretty great. So I think that's what it's going to say. We got it right. That's good. All right, 34 big blinds. We have all the chips. 9, 11, 7, and 6. So this is a spot where I could easily see shoving any 2 cards being right against the average player because I think the average player is going to be calling way too tight. But here I think it is going to suggest I push wide, but not just the stone worst hand. So I think King 6 suited is going to be close. And it is very close, 0.05%. But take a look again. I mean, 7-3 offsuit, 7-2 offsuit, and 8-3 offsuit are barely bad, right? And this is, again, because it's so easy for your opponents to be folding in this spot because they want to outlast each other. All right, 11 big blinds, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 9. So we have to be kind of careful. We're not trying to shove anything here. I think it's probably going to suggest we fold all these, and that's because we do have a big stack behind us. So he shouldn't call us too often, but when he does, it's unfortunate, and we don't really have much fold equity. So I think it's going to tell us to fold all these. So it does. That's good. And notice, if you go through here and you play with this for hours and hours, you will eventually figure this thing out. All right, 4.5 big blinds, 2, 4.5, 2, and we have 7. I think we need to be tight here as well because there are 2 big blind stacks. So I'm going to fold all these. Trying to think if I could be jamming super wide here. I guess I shouldn't. The thing is that if I was in game and I thought these 2 guys were tight, small blind and cutoff, I should be shoving fairly wide because if these 2 guys are tight, that means these 2 guys are going to fold almost every time to try to outlast each other. So I think this is probably the right answer, but I could see pushing these hands being fine. And so sure enough, I do get these 2 wrong. Actually, I get 3 wrong. So basically all 3 reasonable hands. And it is suggesting shove wide, and that's because, I guess it's suggesting because the big blind has a big stack that if these 2 guys fold, as they should to try to outlast each other, these 2 guys have to be tight. So that makes sense. You'll find that a lot of this makes logical sense if you think through it. The problem is that I guess I have lost my touch at being perfect on this, or nearly perfect at this. I used to be very good at this type of thing whenever I first started playing sit and goes, but I haven't played sit and goes in a very long time, so I am lacking. All right, so let's think about this. Everyone has a reasonable stack. However, these 2 guys both have the same amount as us, so I think I need to be somewhat tight when it comes to shoving the trash, but I do think ace-10 and ace-8 are going to be good enough. All right, so we got that right. That's fortunate. All right, 6 big blinds, 2.5, 2.5, 7, and 3. So these 2 guys should be somewhat tight. This guy should be somewhat tight to outlast these guys, but this is an interesting spot because the overriding factor here may be that this guy's just getting such a good price. I wish they gave us closer decisions. I think all of these 3 are fairly obvious shoves. I say that, I'm probably going to get them wrong. But the 6-2 I think is going to be a clear fold. I wish they gave me more closer hands. As you can see, it could have gave me like Queen 8 offsuit, right? And I probably would have told it to fold Queen 8 offsuit and 10-6 suited and stuff. So it's not testing me as hard as it can. It's trying to be friendly, trying to be generous. All right, 20 big blinds, 5, 8, 2.5, 4.5. So this should probably be a pretty wide shoving spot, but all these hands are so horrible. So I think generally the program is going to say to fold just absolute trash, assuming your opponents play well. But again, in regular tournaments, you have to realize your opponents are going to call way tighter. Or at least I think they're going to call way tighter than these players in this hypothetical situation are. Again, this assumes these players are playing perfectly, and they're just not going to in real life. So I could easily see shoving this because no one's going to want to go broke before these 2.5 big blind guys. So maybe that should still just make this a shove, but these hands are just so miserably bad. I mean, I could see all these being shoves, really. I don't think it would ever be insane. And sure enough, they were all pushes. So as you can see, they're all just barely profitable pushes. And these are the type of questions I was getting wrong initially whenever whenever it gives you your initial quiz, I was getting these fairly regularly wrong. And it's very difficult to know what to do in these spots. That being said, actually it says push every hand besides 7-2 offsuit. Interesting. Clearly, I mean, I understand the reason of this is because this guy should be tight because this guy's going to take the blinds next hand. So if this guy has to be tight, these guys aren't going to want to go broke before this guy. So it makes sense, but it's always interesting to try to figure out what is the overriding factor, right? Like, is your hand's strength the overriding factor? Wow, okay, here's an interesting spot. 28 big blinds. Well, this one's definitely going to be a fold. So we have 15 big blinds. I'm going to say all these are pushes, but wow, I mean, these small pairs could just be folds. It's a real disaster for us to go broke before the 5 big blind player here, and obviously we go broke to all 3 of these guys, but I think our hands are too good. Again, this is sort of like overriding factor here is our hand strength, I would think. And there is no extreme short stack. Like if this guy had 2 big blinds, I could actually see folding all these being fine. And we actually missed some of them. So the small pairs are actually folds, which is interesting. Obviously, it says shove very tight in this spot because these players have very deep stacks. At least in this video, I'm going to learn that I have to study this a lot. All right, 2 big blinds. No other short stacks besides this guy, so we're just going to have to go with our best hands, and all these hands I think are good enough. Ace-2 offsuit could be a fold, but I don't think it is. Wow, it is. A pretty bad shove, too. That's so interesting. Like, I guess it's such a bad shove because you know you're getting called a lot, and you are going to be dominated some percentage of the time. And I guess they're just banking on the button going broke first. So it seems like whenever there's a very short stack at the table, even if you have a short stack, you want to be somewhat snug. I mean, I recognize that. I just figured that ace-2 offsuit was good enough. But as you can see, a lot of these hands really drop off quickly. So like ace-6 offsuit's barely bad, and then ace-2 offsuit gets to be pretty bad. And you see like king-2 offsuit's just legitimately horrible. All right. 11 big blinds, 4.5, 24, 3, 14. So we have to be kind of tight here. So this is definitely a fold. I'm actually going to guess that this is a fold as well. Ace-8 offsuit for 11 big blinds is probably close. So it's kind of interesting because you can't really think back to the previous example because the previous example was only 2 big blinds, right? So it's very different. I think it's going to suggest we fold this ace-8 offsuit. Maybe king-queen's a fold too. Hell. I'm going to go fold on all these. And the reason I'm going to go fold on all these is because there's two guys who are very short. I could see myself just being completely wrong about these two. And turns out ace-8's worse than queen-10. Like, I would not have guessed that. I kind of did assume that ace-8 was worse than king-queen. But, so here, what is the overriding factor, right? I mean, I guess these guys are just not short enough to where we have to justify playing tight. But I know whenever I'm playing a sit and go in this spot, I really don't want to risk going broke versus the two big stacks. But I guess they just should not call us very often. Interesting. All right, two big blinds. One guy with 3.5 big blinds, so not very short. Well, so ace-2 is just a fold in the other one, so this could conceivably be a fold. Well, I think I'm going to shove all of these. I guess I need to study these charts a lot whenever it's telling me to fold, like see how legitimately tight it's saying to shove. I guess I just don't assume the button should be going broke very often at all, and clearly no one else is going to go broke, so I guess we just have to go with all these. But I could see some of these all being folds, or some of them being folds. Sure enough, they are all slightly bad. So it really is suggesting shoving very tight, even when you do have no chips. And I guess the reason for this is because you know you're getting called, and if you know you're getting called, that's a bad scenario for you. So if we've learned anything today, whenever you know you're getting called, it's bad. Wow, so look at this one. 1 big blind, 2.5 big blinds. So we know we're getting called. Look right here. It's going to embarrass me, but I think we need to be pushing all these. I mean, maybe it's going to say fold 6s because it did say fold I guess the 5s was a different scenario. Hopefully you guys at home are quizzing yourself. Laughing at me. Okay, I would probably shove all these in game, I guess, but maybe you're supposed to fold this. I don't really see how 7s could be a fold. That would be so nitty. All right, we're going to go with this. 6s is a push. Interesting, again, pocket 6s is better than king-queen offsuit. And king-queen offsuit's worse than king-jack suited. I mean, like, that just does not make much sense to me. But I guess if you know you're getting called, you really do want to have that extra suitedness. So there, the overriding factor was our hands were just all too good. All right, 15 big blinds, fairly deep stacks. This guy's short, so we're probably going to be getting called. So I'm guessing we shove king-jack and fold the others. I could see 10-8 suited and queen-5 suited being fine. Finally, we got one right. Basically, good hands, you need to shove them almost every time, unless you have a really good reason not to. All right, so we just learned a similar spot where we had a bunch of short stacks and I had a pretty good hand. I think all these are going to be shoves. If we remember back to that previous chart where we did it wrong with the ace-2 and the ace-3, I think. Ace-4 suited was included in all those. So maybe king-9's a fold, but I think actually king-9 was decently good compared to something like ace-4. So I think we're going to shove all these here. All right, so king-9 apparently was not quite good enough. Let's take a look at the chart. So it seems like we're pretty much always shoving stuff like ace-4 suited. I guess it's, I don't know why I cut this off. Well, you guys can't see it. Whatever. Ace-2 suited is included. Ace-2 suited is not included, actually. Ace-2 suited is a fold. So king-9 is not quite good enough. We should remember that for these short stack scenarios. Also notice, these are all shoving from the hijack. And recognize that this is only one exact situation, right? We can find other situations where I would probably get them all right. We probably find other situations where I'd get them almost all wrong. All right, here we're going to fold, and I think we need to shove ace-9 suited. It's probably good enough. 9 big blinds, 8 and 4, so this kind of makes me want to be tight. The fact that we have 3 stacks that are all short and then 2 big stacks, but I think ace-9 suited just has to be good enough. Ace-9 suited should be great. Ace-9 suited is a great hand. Don't fold ace-9 suited. All right, 22 big blinds, and then a bunch of shorties, including one really shorty. I think this is going to be one of the any 2 push spots. Because if this guy folds, these guys should be very tight. And even if this guy calls, we'll be getting pretty good odds. So I think this is one of those any 2 spots. All right, so that's good. Notice it's just barely any 2 though. So again, if you think you have an edge on your opponents, you should probably not shove quite this wide. But again, this assumes your opponents are going to call nearly perfectly. And I'm not entirely sure if that is completely accurate. I think a lot of people are going to fold too often, which should make you shove even more. All right, 14, 2, 15, 9, and 18. So big stacks. This guy's very short. I think we should be very tight in this spot. Is ace-8 suited good enough? I'm going to guess it's not, actually. Interesting, because this guy's so short, and these guys could take a big chunk out of us. Maybe I should just still be shoving ace-8 suited. Ace-8 suited is great. I'm going to say shove ace-8 suited and fold these other ones. What'd I do wrong? I'm confused. Oh, they're all shoves. Wow. All right. So I guess these are all shoves because kind of like the same reason as the previous hand. If we shove, these guys should be incredibly tight. This is actually how you really abuse sit and go bubbles. I used to do this for a living a long time ago as a kid. Apparently I forgot how. You can shove for an incredibly wide percentage and in this scenario. So interesting. And the reason you can shove is because if this guy folds, these guys should be very tight. You're not really concerned with going broke yourself. Making a pure embarrassment out of myself in this video. You guys can let me know in the comments if you think I'm the worst. But really, I haven't played this game in a very long time because usually when I make final tables, we're all pretty deep stacked. All right, 11 big blinds, 26, 3.5, so kind of short, and then a bunch. Kind of interesting that compared to the previous spot that these two guys now don't have to be so tight because if they call and lose, it's not the end of the world for them. Well, these we know are going to be pushes. Those hands are great. So king 10 suited, king 9 suited. These are probably close. I'm going to guess it's going to say push. I think the hands are just too good, but I could easily see king 10 and king 9 being folds. All right, so sure enough, king 9 suited is barely a fold. Interesting that these hands are barely pushes too. Got to be really tight in the spot. And that's the reason I said that these two guys can both call and lose. That means that their calling ranges should be wider than the previous hand where there's a 2 big blind stack and then like 10, 10, 10, and we had 10 or whatever it was. So I understand why it said that we need to be very tight there. All right, 4 big blinds, no super shorties, so we should probably be somewhat wide with our good hands. And I think these are going to be good enough. All right, so we got that one. So it seems like I'm nailing that spot where we are the obvious middle-ish 4.5 big blind stack. It's like here's another spot where I think we should be pretty wide. We have to ask, though, does this include king 7 and jack 8 suited? I'm going to guess no. Maybe we should, though. So this is a scenario I don't think they've actually put us in recently where there has been no legitimate short stack and just all kind of medium stacks. And I really don't know how wide I need to be pushing here because even though we are the quote-unquote short stack, we're actually not the short. We're not like super short. I'm going to say fold for these, but I could easily see shoving being fine. All right, so jack 8 suited was barely good enough. All right, 3 big blinds, no chips, very short stack in the small blind. This guy's short as well, so it's probably going to suggest we'd be somewhat tight. Is king 10 suited tight enough? I'm going to go with this. Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what the answer is here. So this is another one of these spots where we have no chips, but this guy's super short. So maybe we should be tight to try to move up the payouts. Problem is these hands, ace 9 offsuit's pretty great, and ace 7 suited is comparable. So I think that both these are going to be either shoves or close folds. King 10 suited is also comparable, but I think slightly worse. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Got to study. All right, so king 10 suited was actually very good. Interesting. Again, this is another one of these spots where I would not have expected king 10 suited to be significantly better than a hand like ace 8 offsuit, for example. King 10 suited is equally good, or it's better than ace 9 offsuit. King 10 suited is roughly equal to ace 8 suited. Okay. This is why I don't play sit and goes anymore. There are kids who sit around and play this game all day and know all of these perfectly. And that is certainly not me. All right, so a bunch of shorties. We're going to get called by the big blind, so we need to have something. I'm going to guess fold, push, fold, fold. So we know we're getting called, but is that big of a deal? These guys should all be tight. And this guy should be very loose. So again, I really do not know the right answer in this scenario. Obviously, fours are just way better than ace 3 offsuit. This hand is almost certainly going to be a shove. But I think we're going to go with this answer. I'm just the worst. You should be shoving all these. Again, I don't really understand this because take a look. King 6 suited, 0.06 is better than pocket fours, 0.04. or 0.05. I guess what this is saying here is that if we shove, we are going to get heads up, and that's always fine with reasonably good hands. And these guys should very rarely call us. All right, let's do one more and we'll call it a day. Unless I just easily crush this one. 27 big blinds, 7, 4.5, 7, 5.5, 2.5. This could be that glorious any two card spot because this guy's at 2.5 and all these guys have reasonable stacks. Obviously, these hands are just horrible, right? They're all horrible. But I think we're supposed to shove any two. We have such a dominating stack. I think we can go any two. And actually, look, they're all very profitable too. So, cool spot. We'll do one more. That was kind of an easy one. All right, 4.5 big blinds. This is going to be one I'm going to get wrong, I bet. 2 big blind stack in the small blind. At least, so it's very important to recognize the things that you do not see and the things you don't quite understand. And I actually think that's why this program is very good because it's going to pinpoint to me what I'm doing wrong. So I guess we'll finish this up and go from there. So I think we need to be really tight here. Yeah, I think we need to be really tight. So I'm going to actually fold all these. But again, I have no clue if this is the right answer. All right, so it does say to push some of them. Ace-5 suited's profitable. Ace-6 suited's profitable. Ace-8 offsuit's profitable. And again, I think I really just have to work hard on figuring out the actual value of hands like King-10, King-9 suited, Ace-X offsuit. It's hard to recognize these, but it seems like Ace-8, Ace-9 are pretty much always good in most of these spots. King-10 offsuit seems to be like one of these pivot hands where it can really go one way or the other. Notice that King-Jack offsuit's just barely profitable. Cool stuff. Let's see what happens when I quit the quiz. Maybe it'll tell me something. All right, so it gives you now a rating in these scenarios. I don't quite know if that means anything, though. So it says I'm in the top 1%. I hope top 1% is good, and it doesn't mean I'm just the stone worst. Again, this is my first time using this, so it seems like I don't have any ratings in these spots. But, you know, rating 53, it looks like that's half of what I could have. So it seems like I did not do too well. But I definitely think that I was learning over the process of even just going through and playing the game. I mean, we were certainly talking out the spots, thinking out the spots. And whenever you are playing, make sure that you do go through there and really ask yourself, what should I be shoving or folding in these spots? And try to figure out why, right? Don't just sit there and say, oh, I fold here, I got it wrong. Okay, next question. Try to think it out. Try to figure out what you did wrong so that you can hopefully improve. And I definitely think that I did slowly improve as we got better. And I was also finding these spots where I could have done better. But again, I think a lot of the questions I was missing were not too blatantly horrible, but there were a few towards the end, especially like the King-10 offsuit and Ace-8 offsuit, whatever, that were bad folds, and they're tough. So if you are going to be playing short stack tournament situations, like any live tournament pretty much, or any online tournament for that matter, I definitely suggest you check out this program. It is called ICMizer. You can get it at jonathanlittlepoker.com/ICM. If you go use that link, they will give me a tiny kickback, but I promise this program is excellent to help you get good at these short stack tournament situations. I actually use a program much worse than this, but similar whenever I first started, and I would spend 4 hours per day going through my hand histories. Here, it actually set up the quiz for you and really tell you what you need to work on. So makes it a lot easier for you. Definitely check it out, though. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about it. You can get the program at jonathanlittlepoker.com/ICM. I believe they'll let you run 3 free ICM calculations per day, but this is a paid program where you can sign up for something like a month, and I definitely think it is well worth it, at least to see where you stand. And if you want to get good at poker, you have to practice a lot, and this is a fantastic way to practice this skill. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you next time.